So you just found out that you're going to get a large sign-on bonus, or maybe you just signed for a large sign-on bonus, and you're kind of wanting to know, what should I do with the money? Well, we plan to go over that today in the call, and I'm happy to give you a few pointers on this, although the matter can be a touch nuanced. But before we get too far along, let's make sure that you subscribe to our YouTube channel, sign up for our newsletter, and follow us on Facebook and LinkedIn. We'd really like to have your presence there. So when it comes to money, I think there's just a few things that we can do with it, and I always like to tell our clients, look, when money's in hand, we can either plan to spend it, we can plan to save it, we can plan to invest it, we can plan to give it away, or we can also plan not to earn it. Now, maybe if you're getting a sign-on bonus, not to earn it is probably not the item that's in play. But sometimes as we move along in life, that fifth one starts to be a little more interesting. Like, maybe I don't actually have to make this money depending on how well you're doing. But if you're early in your career and things are just finally moving along and you've got some financial goals to accomplish, I think that fifth one we can go ahead and say is not one we want to pursue. But the other items of maybe spending the money, saving the money, investing the money, and considerably giving the money away are very much in play. But what I'm going to really focus on, and I think what's most important, especially if you just came in, you're coming into your career, perhaps you're just transitioning from being in residency now to becoming an attending, and this is your real first big step up in income. You might find yourself with like, hey, let's go on a spending spree, right? I mean, and what I would say to that, especially if you're moved to be like, gosh, I've been working really hard, I'd like to spend a little bit of this money. I would say go right ahead. You earn it. You've done a good job. You've gone a long ways already to get yourself this far. By all means, let's take a moment and celebrate. You should definitely spend a little bit of this money, but we shouldn't spend all of it. That would be a mistake, and we don't want to overcommit ourselves either, because maybe with the ideas of buying a new house or buying a new car, we pick up monthly payments and we pick up additional insurance. And so, not just having the down payment to get things going along, which is what you could use the sign-on bonus for, but we want to make sure that those other monthly commitments don't become too burdensome. So before we get carried away with spending the money, what I would recommend is having a focus on making sure that we've got ourselves at a point of stability, and we can handle any ups and downs with their finances. And the best way to do that really is with having some reserves, having an emergency fund. So I would say let's take a chunk of that money, maybe 10, 20, half of it. It kind of depends on where you're at in your financial situation, but probably a good chunk of the money. Let's make sure that it is situated towards your reserves so that you are covered in the event of a rainy day. So that would be one item for your consideration. Right along those lines, if you've been picking up credit card debt as just a way to kind of get yourself through, and now we finally have kind of that big payoff. It's raining a little bit in your situation, so to say. We should use that money then to pay down some of that high interest rate credit card debt. Let's get those credit card balances knocked down or brought to zero. Definitely one of the best uses of the money that you could be for your consideration. And then, beyond that, maybe we could be looking at a car purchase. We could be looking at a down payment for a home. We could be looking at maybe even an investment in a rental property, perhaps. It kind of depends on where you're at this point in time in your situation. But while we're considering all those options, we need to make sure that enough has been set aside in taxes, because this bonus is subject to taxes, almost guaranteed. So, and the withholding on that may not necessarily be correct, both on the federal and the state level. So having a little bit set aside in anticipation, or at least having some calculations done to make sure that the taxes are in good order, especially if this is a very large bonus, makes a lot of sense. We don't want to go and allocate all this money and spend it in particular, and then find out that, whoops, we need some of that money back because now the tax man is coming and he wants to be paid too. So again, that kind of begs the need for us to have an emergency fund, those reserves, so that we've stored some of this money set aside, and it's there for any number of purposes, but perhaps paying your taxes on it yet is there as well. But another last consideration would be, let's say, I say save. I have a tendency to say that. What I mean is invest. Let's invest this money, and invest here is putting the money away for the long term. Could be retirement, could be just general wealth accumulation. So depending on where you're at, I think a great a place to be for your consideration would be maybe maxing out some Roth IRAs for the year. That we can do as much as $7,000, for per IRA per year currently under the tax law of 2024, 2025. That's obviously subject to change. Depending on whether or not you're married or single, you could do 7,000 for yourself. You could maybe do 7,000 for your spouse. And so, the value and the benefit of a Roth IRA is the money will grow tax free thereafter. And so, putting a chunk of that aside for investing certainly makes a lot of sense. And a Roth can be a great place in which that we can put some of this away into your future needs, which is really what investing is all geared towards. Let's make sure that your future self is covered. So I think it makes sense to kind of break this up into multiple different goals. As to how much we prioritize really just depends on your situation. But as I said at the outset of the call, let's focus on saving some of the money. Let's focus on investing some of the money. Let's definitely enjoy it, some of the money by spending it. And then, also depending on your interest and focus, I think considering charitable donations are certainly worthwhile. If not with this bonus, maybe at a future bonus in time, giving back some to society and some organizations that you care about and are important to you certainly makes sense. And there can be some tax benefits. So kind of depending on how much income we have here, this can be a great way to knock down some of what you owe in taxes. And then lastly, I don't think this is applicable, but I like to throw it out here just as it's what I like to give to clients as we're considering what to do with their money. There is a possibility at some point, maybe not today, but at some point in time, we don't necessarily need to earn this money any longer. And maybe we have more money, more income than what we need. Now, that's a great place to be in, but that's another one item that sometimes folks find themselves working too hard. And it's, they're working for money that they don't really need. And so a realistic examination might be, well, do we need to really earn this? Now, in your situation, if you got a big sign-on bonus and you're transitioning from a resident to attending, again, I don't think that's the item for too much consideration. But thanks for listening, folks. Hope this was helpful. Please reach out if you got any additional questions. We could set up an introductory consultation, walk through some ideas such as this, some questions. But as I said at the outset of the video, let's have you subscribe to our YouTube channel, follow us on LinkedIn and Facebook, and then sign up for our newsletter. We'd love to have you sticking around and paying attention. Until next time.